Hey guys and gals, what's going on? So today we are going to be talking about hooking a trailer, inspecting a trailer, and dropping a trailer. We get a lot of complaints all the time in the safety office about, oh, people just drop the trailers too high and they drop the trailers too low. The majority of the time that has more to do with the terrain where you're dropping it. The ground may be higher or lower where you drop it compared to where maybe a spotter truck drops it later. But we do want to kind of go over the proper procedures for hooking and inspecting and dropping a trailer. So Al Beamer doesn't know it yet, but he's allowing us to use his truck and trailer today for our adventure. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and get the truck started up. And first thing you always want to make sure you do is you get the back axle of your tractor up underneath the trailer, and always jump out and get a look at your fifth wheel height. You don't want to get a high hook. You don't want to jump over the kingpin up over the fifth wheel. That creates a lot of extra work to get that thing back over the fifth wheel the other direction. So I'm going to go ahead and back it up to the trailer. So as you see, I backed up to the trailer to just got underneath the back end, and it is sitting a little bit high. So I'm going to want to adjust that trailer down a little bit just to make sure that I don't end up with a high hook situation. So I'm going to crank that trailer down a little. All right. That looks pretty good. So now once I back the fifth wheel up underneath the trailer, it's going to actually pick up on the trailer, which will then relieve pressure off of the landing gear. With a heavily loaded trailer, as you all know, the trailers slide a little bit when you hook up to them. You get that extra pressure, that extra twist on the landing gear, and it makes it very hard to break them loose. So you like it just to pick up a little bit and take that pressure off when you can get that done. I'm going to go ahead and release the brakes and put it in reverse. And as I back up to the trailer, I'm kind of watching the corner. I want to see that trailer lift up a little bit. You'll be able to feel it when your fifth wheel gets underneath it. And of course, then you get that little bit extra push. And then you hear the fifth wheel flap over. Now, me personally, I always like to push back up against everything just to make sure everything's up there tight. Put it in drive, and now we're going to do test number 1. We're going to do the tug test. Make sure we're good. All right, we are secure. The next thing I always like to do is I like to do my routine the same way every time. The first thing I do, I hook up my air lines. Now inside the truck, I said test number 1 was our tug test. So that's the first thing you always want to do when hooking to a trailer. The second test you want to do is look under here, make sure that your handle is all the way into the fifth wheel and that you have no gap between your fifth wheel and the trailer apron. So test number 3, we want to come back under here and we want to look right up into that fifth wheel and make sure that locking jaw is all the way across the kingpin. Again, we're looking, making sure there's no gap between the fifth wheel and the apron, and that locking jaw is in the groove of the kingpin. So those are your 3 tests that you should do every single time that you hook to a trailer. So now that I've got that done and I know the trailer is securely coupled, I'm gonna go back up to the truck, I'm gonna hit my lights, and I'm gonna hit my air up my trailer. There we go. Now, another thing you always want to do whenever you're hooking to a new trailer is make sure you inspect that trailer. Sometimes it can get a little easy, getting in a hurry. You hook up to a trailer, you throw your air lines on, you air it up and you go. Or maybe you just walk back, make sure your tail lights are working. You want to do a full inspection on every single trailer that you're hooking to. So again, I always have my routine. I hook up my air lines, I check to make sure I'm secure, come back, hit my lights, hit my air to the trailer. Now I'm gonna crank my landing gear up, and the whole time I'm looking at everything, just making sure everything's good. Always want to make sure you crank your landing gear all the way up. Again, in a short haul situation, I know it can get real easy to maybe crank them halfway up or leave them down a little bit. But man, that is a surefire way to catch landing gear on a steep railroad crossing. We have had to pull our trucks off of railroad tracks before for just that situation. So you want to make sure you get those things all the way up and have the maximum amount of ground clearance you can possibly have. So just checking my landing gear, everything looks good there. General condition of the trailer, conspicuity tape, lights. I want to make sure that guy's secure. Okay, then I just want to look underneath here, make sure my air lines are all up, nothing's touching the ground. Very important, making sure that you have 2 pins for your tandem slider, 2 pins sticking out on both sides. Tugging on it is fine and dandy, but it's not the best way to test that you're locked in. We have had recent incidences where with some of the newer Wabash trailers that these pins are a little bit tight because they're newer trailers. They're not popping out all the way. Guys are just tugging, think they're locked in because they hear the arm go in and they hear things popping, but they're not out all the way. That is a DOT violation if they're not fully extended through the holes. So you want to make sure, especially on these newer trailers, that everything is coming all the way out. So you want to get out and look. Make sure you have 2 pins on both sides sticking fully through the slider rails. Check your tires, wheels, lug nuts, making sure everything's good. Something that I always do, I look at the back side of my tires on the other side, look for any oil. You see oil on the back side of a tire, that's a telltale sign that you have a wheel seal leaking. It is illegal to drive around without mud flaps. That is another DOT violation. ABS lights. If it's on, it is a violation. It is not an out of service violation. Do not cover the light. Do not remove the light. If you remove that light and there's a hole there, that light's supposed to be there, that is still a violation. Do not cut the wires. Report it to the shop so that it can get fixed. Want to make sure all your lights are working. 4-ways, the newer trucks have the light tests on them, which are really nice. Got all that. You're picking up an empty trailer, open that trailer, inspect the inside of it. Make sure it's clean, no holes, no damage. Maybe you think you're picking up an empty trailer and there's 2 skids up in the front. So you want to make sure there's nothing in it, that it is fully empty, no damage, and it's clean. That's another issue we run into a lot. We all know it, we all talk about it, how, oh, these trailers, nobody sweeps out their trailers. Make sure you're carrying a push broom with you. Anytime you get unloaded, before you drop a trailer, sweep that trailer out. Don't leave the mess for the next driver to have to deal with. Easier said than done sometimes because you got left with a mess, so why should you bother? Just take the extra couple of minutes and sweep that thing out. I know a lot of guys get the leaf blowers and blow the trailers out. Makes it a little easier if you want. You don't want to just come up here and then just check your wheels and go back the other way. So we want to inspect the entire trailer. Again, mud flaps, wheels. We've got 2 pins sticking out fully of our slider rails, so we are good on all 4 pins for our tandems. Checking the tires, wheels, and lug nuts. All right, and then again, general condition of the trailer, conspicuity tape on this side, lights and flashers, make sure the skirts are good and secure. All right, landing gear looks good on this side as well. Now, we're out here, we're walking around, we might as well put a little inspection on our truck as well. So same thing, checking your tires. Make sure you got all your lug nuts, everything looks good. Even though we did a pre-trip inspection this morning, why not check it throughout the day? You're walking around anyways, take a look at it, make sure you don't get caught off guard with anything. Everything looks good, we are hooked and we are ready to roll with our empty trailer. So the next thing I want to talk about is the proper way to drop a trailer. So basically we want to start with the landing gear. We want to crank your landing gear down. What we want to do so that we don't drop it too high is we want to make sure you bring them down to just as they touch the ground. Maybe you could slide a piece of paper in between the sand shoe and the ground. You don't want to leave them up too high. You don't want to crank them a couple extra times so that the trailer lifts up either. So we're going to go ahead and crank these down. Another thing to keep in mind is you always want to make sure you're dropping your trailers on the concrete pads, especially leading into the spring. The ground's going to thaw, things are going to get soft. Get into the summertime and the asphalt actually gets warm enough that you drop a heavy trailer on that asphalt, it will sink into that asphalt. So always want to make sure you're hitting that concrete pad when you drop. So that's usually about to where I go to with cranking down the dolly legs. You know, some guys, I've heard a lot of guys say, you know, they like to crank them down until they touch the ground and then back them off a turn and a half. But right about there to where you could just slide a piece of paper in between there and you're good. Another thing, I like to always leave the handle hang when I'm dropping a trailer instead of putting it in here. These ones aren't too bad, but some of the other trailers where they kind of hook up here, when those trailers sit down, I know we've all seen it, we've all experienced it, that handle gets wedged up underneath the trailer and it can be very difficult to get out. So I always like to leave them hang. A lot of our customers like us or require us to slide our tandems to the back when we're dropping it at a dock or just dropping at all. But it's been brought up quite a few times. I know I've brought it up in the past as well. Whenever you're dropping a trailer, whether you're dropping it in a dock, you're dropping it in a lot, no matter what, before you drive away from your trailer, make sure that your tandems are unlocked in place. Because what happens is the next person comes around and they go to back up underneath that trailer and the tandems are left unlocked. And maybe you're in a drop lot and there's a back of a trailer and a back of a trailer. You back underneath that trailer, those tandems aren't locked, the trailer box slides, and we hit the trailer behind us, okay? So always want to come back, make sure that your tandems are locked in when you're dropping so that we don't run into those issues anymore. So next thing I'm gonna do is unhook my air lines, but first I'm gonna release my trailer button because otherwise I'm gonna have air blowing everywhere. Now I'll unhook the air lines. Okay, and as all of you know, with our in-cab fifth wheel release, leave your tractor brake set, you must be in neutral. Go ahead and push your trailer or your fifth wheel release. You should be able to hear the mechanism release. I'll put it in gear and I am just going to slowly pull out and I'm going to listen for that kingpin to break loose out of the fifth wheel. And when it does, I'm going to stop. Right about there, that's when I want to dump my air suspension. So I'm going to go ahead and let that air bleed off. And we're just going to sit that trailer down nice and easy. And once that air bleeds off, then I'm just going to go ahead and pull forward and roll right out from underneath that trailer nice and easy. And then, of course, always want to make sure that you raise your suspension back up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to, I don't know, what do we call it? Safety TV, maybe? Why not? So we'll see you guys next month, maybe. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take it easy. Oh, and thanks to Al Beamer for letting us use his truck, even though he doesn't know it yet. Later.